The Cursed Mistress, discover hidden terrors in this spine-chilling haunted film premiere 2025. Lila Parker pulled into their driveway, her heart pounding like a war drum. The ever-thickening fog rolled in from the woods, wrapping around her modest house, distorting the familiar sight into something ghostly. She shook her head, trying to clear her racing thoughts. Exhaustion gnawed at her as shadows danced around her, but the whispering winds only seemed to intensify the dread gripping her chest. Inside, her two children, Lucy and Ethan, were tucked warmly in their beds under pastel-colored blankets, comforting against the chill seeping in through the cracks. Lila's bedtime rituals were a refuge, each story and gentle kiss a temporary escape from the chaos of her night shifts at the diner. But each time she drove home from work, the fog seeped deeper into her bones, and with it came the teeth of a malignant presence creeping at the edges of her vision. As darkness settled, she began to hear it, a soft laughter, barely a whisper but sharp enough to make her skin crawl. It lingered like a bad smell, twisting through the air, sneaking into cracks of her mind. Strange shapes flitted just beyond her sight, taunting her sanity. Was it all in her head, or was the fog a living thing, hungry for her? One evening, as she stopped to grab groceries from her car, a bone-chilling whisper sliced through the stillness. "Remember the Cursed Mistress." The name sent icy jolts through her body, sending her heart into a frenzied dance. She stumbled inside, trying to dismiss it as mere fatigue, but Lucia's quiet murmurs drew her attention. Standing by the window, her daughter was in a trance, talking softly to the fog, her wide eyes filled with something indecipherable. Ethan gripped his pillow tight, his nightly routine replaced by frantic ramblings of revenge against unnamed enemies. Lila's heart sank with dread. What was happening to her children? The more she searched for answers, the more the neighborhood shrugged off her fears, leaving her surrounded by a deafening silence that echoed with disbelief. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The fog grew thicker by the day, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. The whispers turned into frantic calls. Every night was a battle to keep her children from sinking deeper into the darkness. But the legend of the Cursed Mistress, a woman lost to betrayal, slipped through her fingers like smoke. A quiet voice within whispered that the answer lay next door. It was time to confront the only man who seemed too friendly, a neighbor whose past lingered like the fog, dark and foreboding. She could sense something dangerous just beneath his charming exterior. Standing trembling before his door, heart racing and breath shallow, Lila could almost hear the echoes of betrayal swirling around her. As she gathered her courage to knock, a sudden wail tore through the air, filling her with horror. The whispers crescendoed into frantic screams from the depths of the fog as if the very shadows were crying out for vengeance. The darkness twisted around her, mocking her fears. Lila stood frozen, knowing the truth was waiting just beyond that door, but the fog had wrapped around her heart, squeezing tighter than she had ever known. What secrets lay behind her neighbor's smile, and would they be able to save her family from the curse that threatened to engulf them? Lila hesitated, her knuckles hovering above the door, the cold feeling like ice on her skin. The wailing continued, a sound that seemed to echo from some deep, forgotten place. She took a steadying breath, a pitiful whisper against the chaos rising around her. Then she knocked. The sound reverberated against the wood, jarring her with its finality. Moments stretched into an eternity as she waited, her heart thrumming like a trapped bird. Would he answer? Would she discover the truth, or plunge further into nightmare? The door creaked open slowly, and there he was, Mr. Collins, the neighbor, with a smile that seemed too easy, too inviting. He wore an apron, flour dusting his shirt, but for Lila, it felt like a mask. She searched his eyes, looking for something, anything. But they were clouded, like the fog outside, hiding whatever darkness lay beneath. Lila! What a lovely surprise! His voice rang too sweet, a syrupy tone that coated the air and made her skin prickle. Mr. Collins, her voice faltered as the wailing morphed into raucous laughter, vibrating with something sinister just beyond his door. Lila's gut twisted. I need your help, it's my kids. They children are quite the handful, he interrupted, turning back slightly to glance over his shoulder as if expecting someone. Why don't you come in? I just made some cookies. An unsettling chill ran down her spine. Cookies? In all her anxiety and despair, the surreal absurdity of this moment gnawed at her. She had to get in, but how could she trust him? Thank you, but I just need come in. The command cut through her hesitation like a knife. Something in his eyes flickered an intensity that sent a shockwave of fear coursing through her. The fog swirled tighter around her, as though it had a will of its own, tugging her forward. Against her better judgment, Lila stepped across the threshold, the chill of the air inside biting at her as soon as the door clicked shut behind her. Just inside, the dim light illuminated the gathering dusk. It felt oppressively warm, a sharp contrast to the cold that gripped her. As she scanned the room, her eyes fell on jars filled with ingredients, labeled with messy handwriting. At the edge of her vision, shadows twisted unnaturally, flickering in and out of sight like the edges of her sanity. What's wrong with your children? He asked suddenly, his smile still plastered on his face, but it no longer felt welcoming. It was predatory. Lucy, she's beautiful little girl. Gifted, he cut in, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. They say children see things adults can't. Isn't it wonderful? Her heart raced. She could sense danger lurking just beneath his charm, like an alligator lying in wait beneath calm waters. I just want to help them, she insisted. I can help you, Lila. His voice dripped with something sickeningly sweet. But are you ready to pay the price? The laughter outside crescendoed into a cacophony, drowning her in terror. Memories of her children flooded her mind, sweet faces twisted by fear, the innocence stolen away by the shadows curling around them. What price? She demanded, and despite the weight of dread, she felt a flicker of defiance. His smile broadened, revealing too many teeth. Let us just say the Cursed Mistress is known for her unconventional dealings. A loud crash echoed through the house, and Lila felt her pulse quicken. The fog outside seemed to claw at the windows, desperate to breach the fragile shelter. She realized with a creeping dread that the time for answers was slipping away. Do you hear that? She asked urgently. Of course, my dear. His voice turned silky smooth, something menacing lurking beneath. The question is, do you really want to know? In that moment, she understood. The veil was thin, and the choices she made from this point would either tether her family to the earthly realm or plunge them deeper into despair. Yet within her, a fierce determination ignited. But can she break the curse before it claims her children? As her breath caught in her throat, the shadows lengthened, creeping closer, hinting at the horrors to come. The whispers amplified, a storm on the horizon brewing with unnatural fury. Lila felt the ground shift beneath her, and she braced herself for confrontation. What horrors lay waiting beyond the echoing laughter, and would she have the strength to confront the truth before it was too late? Lila's heart hammered against her ribcage, a frantic drum signaling her rising panic. Shadows slithered along the walls, twisting and curling, and every instinct screamed for her to run. Yet, held captive by Mr. Collins's sinister presence, she couldn't move. Why must there always be a price? She managed to whisper, her voice trembling. Because, dear Lila, he replied, his smile stretching unnaturally, everything comes at a cost. Even the joy of children. What did that mean? The laughter rang out again from somewhere in the house, gleeful yet chilling, echoing in a way that felt like a death knell. Lila's breath quickened, the air in the room weighed heavy with the scent of sweetness mixed with something rancid. Suddenly, a noise erupted from the kitchen, a crash of dishes shattering, followed by the sound of something scraping against the floor. Please! Lila shouted, her voice breaking. I need to get to my kids. Mr. Collins's demeanor shifted, and his eyes glinted with amusement. Oh, but your children are fine for now. It's you I'm worried about. The shadows seemed to lurch forward, cast by the flame of a single flickering candle on the table. Lila felt trapped in a game, a twisted chessboard where each move could cost her everything. She took a hesitant step toward the kitchen, her feet heavy as they dragged through the oppressive warmth like molasses. Wait, Mr. Collins warned, though his voice held an unsettling calm. I prefer to let them, introduced themselves. The laughter crescendoed in a wild frenzy, rising until it dominated the room. Then silence fell abruptly, making Lila's pulse thud in her ears. "What are you hiding?" she demanded, her voice steadying as determination surged through her. "What are you really after?" He chuckled softly, an unsettling sound that echoed off the walls like a haunting refrain. "You'll see, my dear." All in good time. With a sharp intake of breath, Lila turned and bolted toward the kitchen. The door swung open with a creak, and as she stepped in, the sprawling darkness swallowed her whole. She blinked against the absence of light, fingers trembling as she reached out. Stumbling forward, she crashed into someone. A chill shot down her spine as she recognized the figure. "Mommy?" a small voice whispered. "Lucy?" Lila gasped, and just like that, all fear ignited into panic. She reached for her daughter, but the little girl's figure flickered in and out of the dark like a phantom. "Mommy, help!" Tears glistened on Lucy's cheeks, shimmering against the oppressive gloom. The laughter erupted again, louder, more menacing, spilling into the kitchen like an invading tide. Lila barely had time to draw her breath before the shadows twisted violently, morphing into chaos. Forms writhed and danced, grotesque faces appeared, their eyes hollow, oozing malice. "No!" Lila cried, reaching out. "Lucy, where are you? I can't see you." The girl wailed, their connection strained by the malevolent haze encircling them. "Don't leave me! Hold on!" Lila shouted, desperation igniting a primal energy within her. Just then, she felt a powerful pull, as if the darkness was clawing at her very soul, trying to drag her under. "Mommy!" The lights flickered, and all at once, darkness overwhelmed Lila. With each beat of her heart, she felt herself teetering on the brink of losing everything, the echo of laughter surrounding her a haunting melody of despair and chaos. Could she salvage her child from this nightmare before it was too late? "Time is running out," Mr. Collins's voice taunted in the distance, blending with the shadows. "Join us or lose them all." Desperation morphed into resolve. But how? What must she confront to save her child? The weight of the moment pressed heavily against her, reality distorting under the terror closing in. In the dark, Lila sensed she was not just fighting for her daughter, she was battling a forgotten evil, a force intent on snatching away not just their lives, but their very souls. Would the price bring salvation or damnation? The laughter echoed again, reminding her that the clock was ticking. Would she step into the abyss to unveil the truth, or would fear hold her captive forever? Lila felt as if the world had imploded around her. She stretched her arms into the darkness, desperately searching for Lucy, her fingers trembling against the cold, empty air. The laughter, once gleeful, now morphed into a sinister growl, echoing through the kitchen, making her head spin. "Lucy! Where are you?" Her voice cut through the thick veil of shadows, but the darkness seemed to absorb her words, swallowing them whole. She staggered forward, heart racing, praying the floor wouldn't give way beneath her. Then she heard a light shuffle, a soft whimper. "Mommy!" Lila's heart surged. "Lucy!" She lunged toward the sound, desperation propelling her. Yet, as she reached out, her hands grasped at nothing. Panic clawed at her throat like a wild animal, urging her on. "Stay with me. I'm coming!" she cried, urging herself to fight through the thickening gloom. Suddenly, a chilling breeze swept through the kitchen, twisting her hair and sending a wave of goosebumps crawling across her skin. In that fleeting moment of clarity, she felt something or someone brushing against her. Lila spun, arms outstretched, and collided with something cold and clammy. "What are you?" she gasped, her breath catching in her throat. A figure shifted in the darkness, a grotesque form that loomed closer, its laughter amalgamating with the sounds of the kitchen, the clinking of glass, the soft creaking of wood. "We are the ones who remember," it rasped, the voice a jarring mix of fear and lunacy. "Remember what?" She strained to see, anger giving her a spark of courage. "Your price, child. The children pay in laughter and in pain." Lila felt a pinprick ripple of fear race down her spine. "What do you want from us?" "Only to keep the balance," it whispered, eyes gleaming like dark stars, grasping for her reality as if pulling threads of fate. "Join us, or the cycle continues." With a surge of fury, she shoved the figure away, her hands finding purchase on something more solid. Her daughter. Lucy. Mommy? The little girl's voice trembled as it fought through the chaos, and Lila felt the last string tethering her sanity become brighter, urging her forward, but the shadows danced wildly, constricting around her. If she moved too quickly, they shrieked in a language she couldn't understand. If she hesitated, they pulled her down into despair. Mr. Collins's words echoed back, taunting her with promises of sacrifice. Mommy, I'm scared, Lucy's small voice whispered again, laced with heartbreak. Don't worry, Lucy. I'm right here. I won't let go. Lila screamed, voice cracking. She couldn't lose her baby. Not now. Not ever. In a wild determination, Lila clawed her way back to where she sensed Lucy lingered. Desperate breaths rasped in her throat, the fear palpable as she hurtled toward the sound of tears. Hold my hand, baby. She urged, finally brushing against a soft, small palm, but just as she latched onto it, a deafening shriek tore through the kitchen, and the shadows parted to reveal a nightmarish form, silhouetted against the dim light of the flickering candle. It was monstrous eyes swirling with darkness, a mouth split into a grin of jagged teeth. Too late, the creature hissed, and with a snap, the pull of shadows broke Lila's grip. The scream of her daughter echoed in her ears, replaced suddenly by silence. The darkness rampaged around them, closing in as Lila's heart plummeted. She stood there, frozen, breathless, trapped on this edge of despair. Mommy, came the distant wail, sinking further away, and panic gripped her with an iron fist. Desperation lashed through her. Was she going to lose everything? The laughter roared again, assaulting her ears, prowling closer. With a final gasp, Lila tore through the black, chasing the ghostly voice, hand outstretched, as uncertainty gripped her heart. Lucy! And then darkness swallowed her whole. In that moment, she realized time had shifted, and the abyss was hungry. Would the shadows consume them both? Or was this just the beginning of something far worse? The laughter echoed through the empty space. Where would it lead her next? Lila's thoughts shattered like glass as the void tightened around her. She felt weightless, suspended in a tapestry of shadows, her mind spinning. Where was Lucy? The echo of her daughter's cry reverberated through the darkness, a haunting melody tangled with despair. The air felt thick, as if it were alive, closing in on her. Lucy, she whispered, but the name fell limply into the abyss. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye. A dim light began to pulse in the distance, swaying like a flame. Lila's heart surged. Hope? Or another trick played by the darkness? She propelled herself toward the weak glow, weaving through the oppressive shadows that seemed to grasp at her limbs, trying to pull her back into despair. As she stumbled forward, memories of Lucy flooded her mind. Playdates at the park, bedtime stories, those innocent giggles. Lila felt fire burning in her chest. I will find you, Lucy. I will fight through this hell to bring you back. With every terrified step, laughter coiled around her, sneering like it was mocking her resolve. It was a chorus of twisted joy, echoing off the walls that felt too close, too alive. Lila pressed on, each heartbeat like a drum calling her to a battle she didn't fully understand. Finally, she squinted against the radiant light, and what lay before her sent a chill racing through her bones. It was an old, cracked mirror propped against the wall, its surface swirling with ripples. Within its depths lurked reflections of fragmented scenes, children laughing, shadows dancing, memories twisted into nightmares. Each face was distorted, wearing smiles that sent tendrils of freezing fear curling around her spine. Lucy? Lila stepped closer, hand trembling as it reached for the glass. Is that you? The surface rippled violently as though responding to her presence. Images shifted, twisting into something grotesque, a shadowed version of Lucy, trapped behind the glass, her sweet eyes wide with terror. Mommy! The figure screamed silently, lips moving but trapped within the confines of this cursed realm. Tears streamed down Lila's cheeks as she recoiled, bumping against something hard behind her. The coldness slithered against her back like the touch of ice. She turned and froze. There, looming behind her, was the twisted figure she had encountered before. It towered, looming with an insatiable hunger, its mouth stretching wider with anticipation. You shouldn't have come here, it crooned, the sinister undertone thickening the air. Let her go. Give me my daughter. Lila shouted, a surge of courage igniting within her. The creature chuckled, the sound echoing, bouncing like taunting winds. You refuse to understand the rules, it hissed, a sickly sweet tone curling around Lila's resolve. Join us or lose her forever, the abyss always claims its due. Panic clawed at her throat as it advanced, shadowy tendrils snaking toward her, promising everlasting horror. Lila's breath came in short gasps. She felt the weight of choices already pressing down on her, suffocating her with each moment. Please, Lucy, she cried, lunging back toward the mirror. Yet, as she did, the surface rippled dangerously like a bathed cliff ready to fall. A flash of light surged through the mirror, pushing against the darkness, illuminating the space around her. You can break the cycle. A voice emerged, echoing from her subconscious. It was Lucy's voice, strong yet ethereal. Fight for us, Mommy. With fury igniting her heart, Lila balled her fists. I will fight. She yelled, pushing back against the blackness that threatened to overtake her, every ounce of maternal instinct boiling within. Shadows roared and screamed, clawing desperately at her, but as she closed the distance to the mirror, the glimmer of hope flickered. What awaited her on the other side? Would it usher salvation or drag her into terror deeper than she'd ever known? Lila reached for the mirror, her hope tethered to the fragility of glass. Would it shatter or align her soul back to the light? The shadow screamed, a cacophony blending with Lila's desperate heartbeats. In that moment, she understood, the abyss would not release them easily. What lurked behind that mirror was only the beginning. The mirror quivered in her grasp, and then darkness swallowed the light, obliterating her world once more. Would the true nature of the abyss awaken while she grappled for a way out? Light shattered into an inky void. Lila was no longer in the suffocating realm filled with shadows. Instead, she found herself on the cold, polished floor of a grand hall. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribcage, trying to break free. The air felt different here, ichor mixed with ash, faint and suffocating. Above her, the ceiling loomed high like a gaping mouth ready to swallow her whole. Chandelier crystals hung like teeth poised for the kill. A shiver crawled down her spine as the click of her heels echoed, slicing the silence. Panic bubbled beneath her skin. Lucy? She called out, the name of fragile prayer. The walls echoed her desperation, stone cold and mocking. Was this place a hallway of dreams or a corridor of horrors? As her heartbeat drummed in her ears, she caught sight of reflections in the walls. It was not merely her own face staring back, it was Lucy's, intertwined with those of other children. Their faces were twisted in silent screams, mouths open wide, eyes pleading, lost in an eternal loop of terror. Lila staggered back, slamming her shoulders against the wall. No, she squeezed her eyes shut, but the haunting images persisted, creeping behind her eyelids. Mommy! A voice rang out, familiar yet distorted, echoing like a voice from an ancient well. Lila's heart leapt. Lucy! Where are you? She yelled, the urgency rising. She spun around, desperate to locate the sound. Each step felt heavier, as if the very floor fought to keep her. A door at the far end of the hall creaked open slowly, revealing a room radiating a dim, unnatural light. The air shimmered, pulsating with an energy that beckoned her closer. Lila didn't hesitate, she propelled herself forward, propelled by fear and love intertwined. As she crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind her with a finality that echoed like a death knell. The room was disorienting. Mirrors everywhere, each reflecting a new nightmare. Shadows danced along every surface, mocking her pain and fear. There was Lucy, or at least, a reflection of her, standing at the edge of a darker mirror, eyes wide with anguish. Mommy, help! She screamed, though the glass kept her voice trapped. The image flickered, her figure overlapped by shadows that flitted around the edges like specters. Lila raced to the mirror, pounding her fists against the glass. I'm here. I'm coming. But the surface rippled as if it were water, distorting her vision. The room began to pulse with an unbearable energy, shadows swirling around her ankles like hungry wolves. Lila looked around, breath hitching. What do you want from me? She gasped, trying to keep her mind grounded. A soft chuckle rippled through the air, a voice saturated with malice. Everything has a cost, dear Lila. The corners of the room darkened as the silhouette of the twisted figure materialized, this time closer, looming over her, congealed from shadow and despair. To save one, you must lose another. Get away from her! Lila screamed, falling onto her knees, the weight of hopeless choices pressing down with bone-crushing force. She felt the darkness crawl inside her skin, threatening to root itself in her very being. Join us, Lila, it said, seductive, like a sweet poison whisper. Here, the abyss can grant your deepest desires if you let it take your soul. With every word, the mirrors shattered, each piece of glass reflecting her worst fears, her most profound failures. She saw visions of past moments with Lucy mingled with grotesque shadows of loss, tragedy twisting her heart into knots. The walls began to close in like a noose, squeezing her breath into shallow gasps. Lucy! She wailed. Her mind raced. I won't abandon you. I'd do anything. The mirrors began to swirl violently, glowing, the shadows thrashing against the glass like mad animals. Somewhere amid the chaos, Lucy's voice emerged again, clearer this time. Mommy, fight. Fight for me. Fury fueled Lila, igniting her resolve. I will never give in. She bellowed, lunging toward the swirling vortex of glass and shadow. But as she made contact, a blinding light engulfed her, and she felt herself being pulled apart, piece by piece. The creature's laughter echoed around her, taunting. Then you'll learn the true meaning of sacrifice. Lila's world ripped apart, a cacophony of light and darkness blurring into oblivion. In that moment, she knew, the true battle was just beginning. What new horrors awaited her as she tumbled deeper into the abyss? Darkness swallowed her whole. Lila felt weightless, as if she was drifting through the void, untethered from reality. Her thoughts swirled under the pressure of despair. Was she still fighting for Lucy, or was this a trick, a cruel taunt played by the abyss? Suddenly, the darkness gave way to a murky fog, swirling around her like phantom tendrils. With a gasp, she stumbled onto solid ground. It felt coarse, like earth after a rain, a stark contrast against the polished surface before. The air was oppressively still. She stood in a dreary field, the sun's light blotted out, all that remained was an eerie shade that sent a chill through her bones. Lucy? She called faintly, barely above a whisper. Fear clung to her throat like a noose. A low rustle stirred the fog, and she instinctively turned. Shapes formed and dissolved within the mist, figures of children, their eyes hollow and haunting. They circled her, their cries merging into an unbearable cacophony. Each shriek was a painful reminder, pulling at her heart. Mommy, they chorused, their voices threadbare and echoed with sorrow. No! Get away! Lila shouted, staggering back. The memory she had tried so hard to suppress ripped back to the surface. Each child entwined with Lucy, vibrant and alive before this nightmare consumed them. One of the figures stepped closer, a small girl with hair like spun gold. Lila felt an ache deep within as she recognized the familiar features. Is it really you? She gasped, reaching out. But in an instant, the girl melted into the fog, leaving only a flicker of laughter that chilled Lila to her core. Join us, the wind whispered, echoing from all directions. Join us in our endless play. No! No more! Lila felt panic clawing at her chest. Determined now, she dashed away from the swirling children, pushing through the fog as shadows grasped at her limbs. It was as if the ground trembled in response to her strength. Driven by instinct, she moved toward the faintest glimmer on the horizon, desperately hoping it would lead her back to her daughter. Each step sent jolts through her body, every breath felt like an act of rebellion against the oppressive atmosphere. She soon reached an ancient tree, majestic yet twisted in despair. Its gnarled branches clawed at the sky, and beneath its roots lay an unearthly light. Lila felt drawn, compelled to look deeper. At that moment, a voice rippled through the noise, stronger and clearer. Mommy, please. It was Lucy. Lucy! Lila screamed, falling to her knees at the base of the tree. She could almost feel the connection, an ethereal tether that vibrated between them. I'm here. I won't let you go. As she reached for the light, the ground shifted beneath her, swallowing her whole again. Heart pounding, Lila was thrust into a vision, a nightmarish scene of Lucy alone, caged behind glass, her eyes wide with fear. "Mommy!" Lucy cried, and Lila reached out, fingers brushing the glass. But as she pressed harder, the glass cracked, the shatter echoing like a death knell. With each fracture, shadows surged forth, laughing maliciously, threatening to pull her under. "No!" Lila screamed, digging her nails into the edges of the broken glass. "Fight!" Lucy urged, her voice more commanding now, filled with determination. "You have the power." Lila's desperation turned to rage. "I'll fight. I will save you," she roared, feeling a surge of energy coursing through her. The shadows recoiled, their laughter faltering. The light glowed brighter, igniting her spirit, but just as Lila thought she could push through, a deep, rumbling voice echoed from the abyss, "Sacrifice demands a price, Lila. Choose wisely." The choice loomed before her, heavy and daunting. If she fought, would she lose her own essence in the process? In that moment, reality shattered once again, and Lila tumbled headfirst into the unknown, knowing only one thing: she was running out of time. What harrowing choices lay ahead, and would they cost her daughter everything? Lila tumbled through a vortex of shadows, the rush of cold air battering her body like icy hands gripping her face. Every nerve screamed for her to wake up, to escape the nightmare that pressed down on her. But in that chaotic whirlpool, she held on to one thought: Lucy needed her. She couldn't let the darkness have her daughter. With a violent thud, Lila landed. She gasped for air, her lungs burning as if the last remnants of hope were being suffocated. She blinked against the dimness, trying to grasp her surroundings. Above her, the sky swirled like a tempest, clouds roiling, shifting between dark blues and unnerving grays. The air was heavy, laced with a fragrance of decay. Movement to her left caught her attention. Shapes emerged in the background, distorted figures looming from the mist. They were tall and shrouded in tattered garments, faceless and haunting. Lila could feel their gaze, unyielding and judgmental, penetrating deep into her soul. "Lila," a voice purred, silky yet sharp, like a blade gliding through flesh. "Who is there?" she yelled, heart racing. "Lila," the voice echoed, serpentine and alluring. "You have come so far. But this is only the beginning. Darkness requires your sacrifice." Anger flared within her. "I won't give you anything," she shouted, but her voice felt small amidst the menacing entities that surrounded her, yet their laughter sliced through her bravado, each chuckle a reminder of her failures, of every moment spent in despair, every thought of losing Lucy. The figures moved closer, a cacophony of whispers swirling around her. "Join her in the abyss. All your pain will be washed away." What could they want from her? Each word ignited a fire of resistance. She searched desperately for a way out, for a hint of Lucy. The thought of her daughter's smiling face fueled her drive as she flicked her gaze around, eyes darting for any path. The ground trembled, a suffocating weight pressing down on her chest. "Lucy! Where are you?" she croaked, each breath feeling harder than the last. "Follow us." They beckoned, a twisted euphoria dancing in their voices. "We know the path." Lila's heart raced. They wouldn't guide her to her daughter. She felt it in her bones. She wouldn't succumb to their sick game. "No!" she yelled, her voice breaking through the cacophony. "I'll find her myself." Gathering every ounce of strength, Lila broke free from the throng of shadows and dashed into the fog ahead. As she ran, the whispers escalated into a deafening roar, and the figures lunged after her, grasping and clawing at her, their fingers trailing icy dread across her skin. "Lila! Lila!" The voices melded into a haunting chorus, drowning out her resolve, trying to pull her back. Desperation coiled around her heart, squeezing tighter. She pushed forward, focusing on a faint light flickering through the mist. It felt like a beacon, urging her through the weight of darkness. But just as she thought she could reach it, a shadow shot past her, cutting her off. A shrill scream pierced her ears, a child's scream. "Mommy! Lucy!" A primal instinct propelled Lila forward, lunging through the suffocating fog. As she neared the light, a figure materialized, a door looming out of shadows, splintered wood glistening ominously in the dim glow. She hesitated, pulse racing furiously. A chance, she thought wildly, a chance to find Lucy, but behind her, the laughter grew louder, and she felt the cold fingers of despair curling around her, tightening their grip. The door shuddered as if alive, shaking under the weight of unseen horrors itching to spill forth. Choose. The abyss roared, sending tremors through the ground. Choose to abandon your child, or step through and embrace your fate. Time fractured around her. Lila's heart pounded, uncertainty gripping her mind. What awaited on the other side? Would she truly find Lucy, or would she lose herself in the process? She could feel them closing in, those shadowed figures, hungry, relentless. With a shaky breath, Lila reached for the door, grasping the handle tightly. Her choice was made. But would it be the right one? As the door creaked open, darkness spilled forth, and the shadows screeched in protest. Lila stepped through, bracing for whatever awaited her, but the echo of her choice lingered in the air. What horrors lay ahead? And would she be strong enough to face them? Lila plunged through the door and found herself in a cavernous room. The air was thick with a damp, musty odor that clawed at her throat. She squinted against the sudden brightness illuminating the vast space, revealing walls adorned with grotesque paintings that twisted and writhed as if alive. Each brush stroke depicted scenes of anguish, despair, and unending torment. Lucy! She called, her voice echoing off the walls like a desperate prayer. To her right, a flicker of movement caught her attention. A shadow slipped between two columns, dark and swift. Lila's heart raced. It had to be her daughter. Lucy! She yelled again, rushing toward the shadows, the pounding of her heart drowning out the whispers that clung to the air. As she stepped closer, the room shifted. The floor quaked beneath her, sending tremors through her legs, and the walls seemed to pulse, closing in around her. She stumbled, while rising in her throat as panic seeped into her veins. The laughter of the figures from the mist reverberated in her mind, echoing like a twisted lullaby meant to lull her into submission. Mommy! The cry pierced through the chaos, drawing Lila forward. She charged toward the sound, her mind screaming for clarity. Keep going, you must find her. But fear gnawed at her insides, worms of doubt creeping in. What if Lucy wasn't here? What if this place was just another trap, another cruel joke played by the abyss? The flickering light dimmed as she rounded a corner, her surroundings morphing into a claustrophobic tunnel lined with mirrors. They showed her fragmented images, each reflection more grotesque than the last. Each mirror twisted the truth, revealing her as she had never seen herself, a hollow-eyed specter, her skin gray, her hair a wild tangle. Lila shuddered and turned her back on the mirrors, approaching a gilded door at the end of the tunnel. Before she could reach for the handle, the glass suddenly exploded in a flurry of shards that rained around her like confetti from a macabre celebration. She shielded her face, heart racing as the echoes of laughter returned, louder, menacing. Give in! They warned, their voices weaving through her thoughts. Embrace the pain. Join us. But that thought ignited a fire deep within. No! Lila spat, defiance surging in her chest. I won't let you take her. With renewed resolve, she dashed through the remains of the mirrors, emerging into a dark alcove. The light flickered faintly, illuminating a small wooden table at its center. On it lay an old teddy bear, its fur matted and its button eyes glinting with an unnatural brightness. Lucy! Lila gasped, reaching for the bear, the warmth of hope crashing over her. Where are you? The ground heaved violently, knocking her off balance. Shadows curled around her, pressing against her like an oppressive fog, whispering doubt and despair. Come home, Lila, leave the child behind. They slithered around her, the promise of peace disguised as a thick, choking mist. No! She cried, the air thick with sorrow and anguish. Just then, a blur darted from behind her, and Lila turned, praying to see her daughter. But what emerged crushed her spirit. It was not Lucy. It was a twisted version of her, her face stretched into an inhuman grin, eyes hollow and dark. Lila! The impostor shrieked, a voice that echoed her daughter's but twisted through the air like broken glass. Come play with us. Lila recoiled, dread pooling in her stomach. No! Get away from me! But the figure lunged forward, the laughter of the shadows crescendoing, a chilling symphony of chaos engulfing her. The false Lucy reached out, fingers curling like claws. Lila stumbled backward, eyes darting for an escape, for the door that had led her here. Then, suddenly, a new sound pierced the darkness, a faint cry, struggling against the wails of despair. "Mommy! Help me!" It was Lucy. Lila's heart leaped. With a surge of adrenaline, she turned to face the darkness, resolute, ready to plunge into whatever horror awaited her. The figures pressed closer, closing in like wolves. "Back!" she screamed, thrusting her hands forward, drawing on the last remnants of her strength. "Get away from me!" But as she stood her ground, the shadows laughed menacingly, their voices blending as one. "You can't protect her, Lila. You never could. Come join us." Was this truly the end? Would she stand alone, or would she fight through the shadows to save Lucy? As the dark tide surged toward her, Lila took a breath, ready to face the storm. But what drove her to this point? What awaited her beyond that flickering cry? Her instincts screamed that she was not alone in this nightmare, and the certainty tightened around her heart like a noose. What terrors lurked in the depths of the darkness, and would they consume her before she had a chance to find her daughter? Lila felt a wave of despair wash over her, but she rapidly shook it away. There was no time for weakness. "I will find you, Lucy," she shouted, her voice echoed by determination. The shadows loomed closer, but Lila forced herself to stand tall, shoulders back. She was a mother, and nothing would keep her from her child. In the chaos, she turned to the darkness surrounding her, trying to decipher a path through the myriad voices clamoring for her to join them. "Lucy!" she yelled, desperation fueling her strength. A flash of light ignited at her feet, drawing her attention to an old pendant that lay nestled in the rubble, a family heirloom, something her mother had given her long ago. Against the suffocating gloom, it gleamed, a reminder of hope, love, and stronger times. It was a sign. "Lucy, I'm coming!" she roared, clutching the pendant tightly as she charged forward, the darkness screaming in fury around her. The air thickened, roiling as if alive, but Lila pushed through. The voice of the abyss taunted her, "You can't escape," but each word felt weaker now, drowned out by her determination. "Find me, Mommy!" Lucy's voice rang out again, and it was closer. Lila barreled toward the sound, desperation flowing through her veins. She could feel the shadows receding slightly, wavering like a mirage, and with that momentum, she sprinted forward. Suddenly, the ground dropped away, and she stumbled forward, arms flailing. She landed hard, pain jolting through her, but she didn't stop. With a growl, she pushed herself upright and gasped for air. Before her lay a vast chasm, pulsating with an ethereal glow, a bridge to whatever lay beyond. "Lucy!" echoed in the air, and she took a step onto the bridge, the pendant steadying her nerves. As she crossed, the darkness howled, angry but impotent, retreating from the light radiating from her heart. Each step resonated with power, light pushing back shadows that slinked away as if burned. Then she saw Lucy, tiny and fragile, standing in the spectral glow, surrounded by swirling mists. Her daughter was alive. "Mommy!" Lucy cried, joy mixing with terror, and Lila felt a thrill of panic at the sight. The shadows of despair were creeping back, willing to steal her child once more. "Don't worry, baby. I'm here!" Lila shouted, racing toward her. The closer she got, the more she could feel the grip of darkness tightening, its whispers pulling at the edges of her sanity. With a surge of strength, Lila lunged, diving forward, and in one swift motion, she grasped Lucy's small hand, holding on tight as if her life depended on it. The abyss around them screeched in protest. "Help me!" Lucy cried in a broken voice. "I won't let go," Lila promised, squeezing her daughter's hand like a lifeline. Shadows clawed at their legs, trying to pull Lucy back into the depths. Lila's heart almost burst with every push against darkness. "Fight! Together!" Lucy encouraged, her small voice bright against the terror enveloping them. With ferocity, Lila pulled Lucy into her arms, and they both stood defiantly against the darkness, their combined will like a firestorm. Light erupted, flooding the abyss, the bridge glowing fiercely beneath them, illuminating the path ahead with warmth and vibrant energy. The shadows screeched like banshees, fracturing and bursting apart, their grip lost. With every heartbeat echoing like a war drum, they surged forward, laughter and cries fading into the night, until only the two of them remained safely anchored together in the light. Finally, they stumbled onto solid ground, the remnants of the darkness fading behind them into nothingness. Lila looked around an endless field bathed in golden light, laughter of children carried on the breeze. "We did it," she whispered, holding Lucy close. A smile broke across Lucy's face, pure joy radiating. "We're free, Mommy." Tears streamed down Lila's face, a mix of relief and triumph. "Yes, we are." She pressed her lips against Lucy's forehead, feeling her warmth, the precious moments rushing back. They had battled darkness, faced horrors, and emerged together stronger and unbreakable. As they stood, the shadows quietly melded away, no longer holding sway over their lives. The fog lifted, revealing a clear blue sky. "I knew you'd fight for me, Mommy," Lucy said, stars sparkling in her eyes. Lila nodded with fierce love, knowing they would always fight together. Always. As they walked forward, hand in hand, into the world of light, a final hum of laughter resonated in the distance, a haunting echo of what had been. The past was a part of them, but it could never again define their present. They stepped into the future unbowed, unbroken, and together once more. And for you, dear friends, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now to catch every thrilling twist and turn in our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the adventures coming. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this explosive conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this journey ends. Let us build this amazing community together.